So there is our cubism waiting its comedian. Where are the cubist comedians? These things overlapped somewhat with the idea of experimental theatre, which is a deeply interesting subject in its own right. Theatre of the people, theatre of the absurd and Pirandello, the beggar's opera, the penny play, and so on. But here in our space lab, as we want the best thought that can go into comedy, the same as we want the best science for our space sciences, we have to ask ourselves, where are the fauvists in humor? Where are the cubists? Where are the futurists? There's a man named Marinetti who became a fascist and ended up working for the Italian government, created the movement of the futurist, and they had their own gallery in Milan, I think, or possibly Naples. They were sort of foreshadowing of hip-hop with their cult of violence and degradation of women. Funny, isn't it? But perhaps when there's more love, there'll be, instead of violence, we'll have comedy. And what if the reward for a good joke was time with a very, very attractive member of the opposite gender? They do say that everything's about sex and death, and if you want to write a best-selling book, you just call it Sex and Immortality. I heard that joke on a TV show a long time ago. Is it connected that in Sicily, so they say, a sexual orgasm is called the little death? What a joke is a death. It's death to a mood, or at least it can be, I should say. A joke can be a death-dealing instrument to a sour mood. If you're lucky as a comedian, it will explode a frozen carapace of false consciousness and substitute a moment of delight, a breakthrough. Psychologists like Abraham Maslow and in England, Colin Wilson, have talked a lot about peak experiences. A joke can be a miniature peak experience, and we'll leave the sexual connotations aside for another day or for other comedians. But it can be a healing moment, with or without poison, depending on whether it's contaminated with malice and meanness. You know, I have here a cup of coffee. This isn't a joke, but just after I bought this coffee, a lady came in behind me at Starbucks and she said it was her birthday and she produced a special card and apparently you get a free coffee on your birthday. I said I didn't know that, but you know, I was longing to give her something because she's a human being. Right. I wanted to find a way to celebrate her birthday, and if I'd known previously, I would have bought her a coffee as well. Instead, I gave her what I could. I said, "Enjoy your youth." Now this produced a merry laugh, which wouldn't have been the case had she been young. But there was no meanness in her laugh, and none, I think, in the kindness I hope that my eyes communicated to hers. It was a moment of celebration, actually. And it's a very important article of my faith and part of my life as a human being journeying on this plane of ours, to see every human encounter as a sacrament of grace. If I'm proactive, particularly. If not, it's just apathy meeting apathy. Sterile. But you know, every conversation is potentially orgasmic. So maybe we need to start talking with our own nomenclature about the humor orgasm or a laughter climax. Words will catch on. It's a release. That's a very interesting phrase. We learn in King County, Seattle, over the last couple of years that there was a sting operation going on to arrest sex workers masquerading as massage therapists. This is a true story. So previously, under the previous administration or policy, the police were to go in and request a massage. And when something more was offered, they arrested the girl, usually a young immigrant. Apparently, somebody got a better idea. I don't know whether it was the detectives. I guess it would be. Or maybe it was somebody from the National Enquirer who thought the story needed to be better. But the new policy is that the detectives have to go all the way. So you have the moment of release, the climactic moment of release, followed by the arrest. Maybe that's some people's idea of healthy or funny. It is funny, although in a pretty weird sense. These considerations show us, it seems to me, a great truth in a new form that we learned first from Schopenhauer, the philosopher. I have to take my hat off to him. This is a very profound truth. It was he, I believe, who said, "Every parting is a foretaste of death, and every coming together again is a foretaste of resurrection." And this is why old friends who haven't met for a long time embrace each other so fervently. So I'd like to use his idiom and say, every conversation is an attempt to achieve a climactic outcome. Behind every conversation, there's the hope that one will hear words of breakthrough triumph like, "Hey, did you hear you won that prize for $1 million?" Or, "Can we go back to my house now?" Or, "I didn't want to tell you before, but I love you." Or just a joke that produces an explosion of released energy.